The planet Viralaya was not like any other world the humans had visited. Its skies shimmered with colors that changed depending on the angle of the sun. Mountains rose like jagged teeth along the horizon, and the oceans glimmered in shades of green and silver. The humans had built a small research base near the edge of the largest continent, far from the scattered cities of the native Viralians. They came here for the eclipse. It was rare, a phenomenon that had not occurred for thousands of years. The day had begun like any other. Mara, one of the lead scientists, adjusted her instruments on the observation deck. The air was crisp, and the wind carried a faint metallic smell, a scent unique to this planet. The humans had learned long ago to trust their senses, but even Mara felt a quiet tension. Something about this day felt different. "Everything is normal for now," said Tavan, the team's engineer, his voice calm as he checked the readings. His dark eyes scanned the monitors, and his hands moved quickly over the controls. "The eclipse starts in a few hours. All systems are ready." Mara nodded but did not speak. She had seen the tremors under the surface earlier that morning. They were small, almost unnoticeable, but they were not like the usual tectonic activity of Viralaya. She had suggested further scans, but the data was inconclusive. The tremors seemed to be coming from multiple directions at once, as if the planet itself were speaking in a language no one could understand. The native Viralians, a species of tall, thin beings with skin that shimmered like polished stone, had already begun to retreat to their homes. They whispered to each other in tones humans could barely hear. Mara watched from the observation deck as entire villages emptied within hours. No human had ever witnessed fear like this. It was raw, instinctive, and almost contagious. "Why are they leaving?" asked Laura, a biologist who studied the Viralians. Her voice held curiosity, not fear. "They believe the eclipse will bring something dangerous," Mara replied. She hesitated, then added, "I think it might. But we are humans. We face unknowns because we seek to understand them." Tavan smiled. "Exactly. If we only acted like them, we would never discover anything new." As the sun began to dip closer to the moon of Viralaya, the sky started to change. Shadows stretched over the mountains and forests. The light turned from gold to pale silver, and the wind carried a strange resonance that made the base vibrate. Mara felt it in her chest, a low hum that seemed almost alive. "Do you hear that?" she asked. The others paused. The sound was faint, like a whisper carried across the wind. But there was a pattern, a rhythm. Mara's fingers brushed over her tablet as she tried to record it. "It could be the wind," Tavan said, though his brows were furrowed. He did not dismiss it entirely. "Or seismic activity. I will run a scan." The humans were prepared for natural events, but they were not prepared for what came next. The whispers grew louder, forming shapes of sound that seemed almost intelligible. Mara realized that it was not random at all. Someone, or something, was sending a message. Her heart raced. The first tremor arrived exactly as the eclipse began. The ground under the base shook lightly, and a deep shadow passed over the planet. It was not the moon alone. Mara looked up at the sky. The sun was covered, but there were shapes moving within the darkness, enormous and impossible to identify. They moved with purpose, circling above the planet silently. The Viralians screamed and hid, but the humans stood firm. Mara gripped the railing of the observation deck. "Stay calm," she said. Her voice was steady, but her mind raced. These shapes were not like any natural phenomenon. They were massive, moving with intelligence and precision. "We have no weapons that can reach them," Tavan said quietly. He was scanning the readings, his fingers moving with speed only humans could manage under pressure. "But we can observe. We can learn. We can survive if we think fast." The eclipse reached its maximum point. The entire sky was dark, except for the faint shimmer of the alien shapes above. Mara realized they were not just watching, they were communicating with the planet. Each movement aligned with the energy patterns Mara had been studying for years. Somehow, the Viralians could sense it instinctively, which was why they ran. But humans had another advantage: they could analyze, adapt, and act. Mara's mind worked rapidly. If we follow the patterns, we might predict their movements. If we understand their behavior, we can survive this encounter. Laura leaned close. You really think humans can make sense of them? Mara smiled. We always do. That is why we explore. That is why we endure. The tremors increased, and the ground beneath the base groaned like the planet itself was crying. Shadows stretched across the mountains, and Mara noticed cracks appearing in the soil. The base's structure shivered, but it held firm. The team moved to secure all loose equipment and double-check the containment fields. Then, a different sound arrived, a low, resonant cry that came from the sky itself. It was neither wind nor tremor. Mara felt it vibrate through her bones. It was a signal, a warning, or perhaps a plea. She recorded it carefully, knowing that this might be the most important discovery humans had ever made. We need to understand this, she said. Not run from it. The Viralians cannot help. They are too afraid. But we are humans. We have the skill, the courage, and the determination to face it. For a moment, silence returned. The shadowy shapes hovered above, motionless, as if studying the humans below. The eclipse's darkness was complete, and the base was bathed in a pale silver light. Mara stood on the observation deck, staring at the sky. The cry continued, steady and persistent, calling out to whoever would listen. And humans always listened. The pale silver light of the eclipse still lingered over the mountains of Viralia. Mara stepped carefully from the observation deck to the research lab, her eyes scanning the horizon. The tremors had slowed, but the low hum in the air had not disappeared. It was as if the planet itself was alive, and it was trying to speak. Inside the lab, the other humans were busy examining the readings from the instruments. Tavan's hands flew over the controls, adjusting the sensors to pick up even the smallest fluctuations. Laura was bent over a series of devices that could record sound waves, trying to capture the strange resonance that had filled the air. It is not wind or earthquake, Mara said, her voice calm but urgent. These vibrations carry patterns. They are messages of some kind. Tavan paused, his eyes widening. Messages? From what? The shapes above, or the planet itself? Mara shook her head. I do not know yet. But it is intelligent. Only something thinking could produce this rhythm. We must record it and analyze it. If we understand it, we may learn why the Viralians are so afraid. Outside, the native Viralians whispered among themselves. Their skin shimmered with nervous energy, reflecting the silver light. They moved cautiously, avoiding the open fields and the shadows that stretched from the mountains. Mara watched them with interest. Humans and Viralians were very different. Viralians responded to fear with avoidance, while humans faced it with curiosity and determination. That was why they were here. Mara turned to Laura. Prepare the field microphones. We need to capture every variation in the wind and vibrations. Move carefully. The Viralians will be sensitive to our presence, and we do not want to alarm them more than they already are. The team worked silently, but the air was alive with sound. The whispers seemed to grow closer, swirling around the base in patterns that were almost visible. It felt like the wind carried shapes, like invisible hands drawing lines in the air. Mara could not explain it, but she felt a connection to the signals. They were calling to something inside her mind, something primal and aware. Listen, Mara said suddenly. She cupped her hands around her ears. There it was again. A rhythm, repeating in cycles, rising and falling in ways that made her chest tighten. She pulled a recorder closer, trying to capture every detail. Tavan adjusted the frequency on the sensors. It is unlike anything I have ever measured. The energy is concentrated but moving. Almost alive, Mara. This could be the planet communicating with itself, or through the shapes above. Either way, it is extraordinary. Laura, who had studied alien species for years, shook her head in amazement. The Viralians understand this naturally. Their fear shows it. But humans, we have to decode it with our minds. That is our advantage. We are not limited by instinct alone. Mara smiled faintly. Exactly. We can learn. We can act. We are human. That is why we are here. The whispers became clearer as the eclipse reached its halfway point. Mara noticed something peculiar. The vibrations were not random. They repeated in cycles, like words or symbols. Each cycle carried a slightly different pattern, a subtle change that seemed designed to attract attention. The humans could hear it because of their technology and focus, but the Viralians only felt fear. Mara gestured for the team to come closer. The pattern is a code, she said. If we can decipher it, we will know the reason for the eclipse, and perhaps the purpose of the watchers above. The shapes in the sky had not moved since the eclipse began. They hovered silently, enormous and mysterious, their dark forms blending with the silver light. The humans watched with caution, but there was no fear in their eyes. They had faced dangers before, and they knew that careful observation and rapid thinking could save them. Hours passed. The whispers became more complex, and the team grew exhausted but focused. Mara worked through the patterns, identifying repetitions and anomalies. She noticed that the signals seemed to respond to human presence. When she moved closer to certain points on the observation deck, the resonance changed, almost as if acknowledging her. "It is aware of us," she said. Her voice was steady but held awe. "It recognizes that we are here, that we are paying attention." Tavan glanced at her, impressed. "Then we are part of its experiment or message." "That is incredible. No other species could have achieved this. Only humans would stay and try to understand instead of fleeing." The Viralians outside had gathered in small groups, murmuring anxiously. Mara observed them carefully. Their fear was natural, but it was also a warning. Something in the eclipse, something in the shadows above, was dangerous. But humans had another advantage, courage paired with reasoning. As night approached on Viralia, the eclipse was still in progress. The shadows moved slightly, almost imperceptibly, and Mara realized that the shapes above were not just hovering, they were monitoring the humans. The whispers in the wind carried patterns that now seemed directed specifically at them. "This is a message," Mara said. "They are communicating with us, and only us. No other species could decode it. That is why they do not attack. They want to see if we understand." Laura looked at her, astonished. "You mean they are testing us?" "Yes," Mara replied. "And humans have always risen to tests. That is our strength. Our intelligence, our creativity, and our courage. That is why we survive where others fail. That is why we are here while the Viralians flee." Suddenly, a tremor shook the base, stronger than before. Instruments beeped urgently, warning of instability. Mara's heart raced, but she did not panic. She moved to stabilize the equipment and adjust the sensors. The whispers rose in volume, almost as if cheering her on. Outside, the Viralians screamed and hid. Their instinct was to flee, but Mara stayed calm. She focused on the patterns, on the code within the whispers. Slowly, she began to piece together small segments, tiny hints that suggested the planet itself was alive in a way humans could barely comprehend. "This is only the beginning," she said softly to the team. "The eclipse is showing us a glimpse of something greater. We must stay alert. We must observe. We must learn." The shadows above shifted slightly, and Mara felt a thrill of anticipation. The watchers were no longer distant shapes, they were part of the test, part of the message, and the humans were ready. For the first time, the whispers seemed to form a simple tone, a note that resonated with Mara's mind. It was not threatening. It was calling. And humans always answer calls that challenge them. The eclipse stretched across the sky, covering Viralaya in a strange silver shadow. Mara stood on the observation deck, scanning the horizon with her binoculars. The whispers in the wind were louder now, almost like voices speaking in a rhythm she could understand. She felt the presence of the watchers above, the enormous shapes that had appeared with the start of the eclipse. They moved silently, their forms shifting as if they were alive and aware. Tavan joined her, his expression serious but composed. "They are not attacking," he said. "They are observing, waiting. But something has changed. Look at the energy readings." Mara turned to the instruments. The readings showed spikes of energy emanating from the shapes in the sky. The pattern was not random. It pulsed with intelligence, like a heartbeat that matched the rhythms Mara had recorded from the whispers in the wind. "They are alive," Mara whispered. "Not just alive, but intelligent. They are aware of us." Laura, who had been scanning the area with a portable device, called out. "They are watching our every move. The whispers are not just messages, they are tests. Every step we take changes the patterns. They are learning about us." The Viralians outside had gone completely silent. Mara watched them from the deck. They hid behind rocks and in small caves, their bodies shimmering faintly in the eclipse light. Fear controlled their movements. Humans, however, did not react with fear. They analyzed, observed, and adapted. That was their advantage. Mara turned back to the sky. One of the shapes moved closer. It was massive, larger than any building humans had constructed. Its edges shimmered with a dark metallic light, and its body seemed to twist and bend as it hovered. Mara felt a chill but also a surge of excitement. "Do you think it will attack?" Laura asked, her voice low. "No," Mara replied. "It is not attacking. It is testing us. It wants to see how we react." The whispers grew louder, forming a pattern that Mara could now recognize as a simple code. It was a series of pulses, rising and falling in a rhythm that suggested a sequence. Mara grabbed her tablet and started recording. Each pulse seemed to respond to their actions. When she moved closer to the edge of the deck, the rhythm changed. When Tavan adjusted a sensor, it shifted again. "They are communicating with us directly," Mara said. "We are part of the experiment. They are trying to understand us as much as we are trying to understand them." Suddenly, a tremor shook the base more violently than before. Equipment rattled, and warning lights flashed across the room. Mara held onto the railing, steadying herself. The whispers intensified, almost like a warning. She realized that the watchers were not only observing, they were testing the humans' ability to remain calm under pressure. Tavan spoke over the noise. "The tremor is not from the planet. It is coming from them. They are testing the base's stability, or maybe our reaction." Mara nodded. "Humans are built for challenges. We face danger, not run from it. That is why we survive." The largest watcher shifted again, descending slightly. Its movement was precise, calculated. Mara noticed that the pattern of the whispers mirrored its motion. It was as if the watchers were teaching them a lesson, showing them how to interpret the signals. Laura adjusted her recorder. "We need to map every change. Every vibration, every pulse. If we can understand their communication fully, we can anticipate their actions. That is the key to survival." The team worked methodically, following Mara's instructions. They observed, recorded, and analyzed. Every tremor, every whisper, every shift in the watchers' positions provided new information. Humans thrived in such conditions. Unlike the Viralians, who relied on instinct and fled from fear. Humans relied on thought, adaptation, and intelligence. Hours passed, and the eclipse continued. Mara felt a connection forming between the humans and the Watchers. The whispers now seemed to respond directly to their observations. When Mara pointed to a particular shadow on the mountains, the rhythm changed. When Tavan adjusted a sensor to a different frequency, the pulse shifted again. "They are aware we are learning," Mara said. "They recognize our efforts. This is not just a test of courage. It is a test of intelligence and adaptability. Humans are proving themselves." The Virelians remained hidden, trembling in fear. They did not understand the Watchers, and they could not interpret the whispers. Their instincts told them to run, to hide. But humans had another advantage, the ability to face the unknown and turn it into knowledge. As the eclipse reached its peak, a sudden light shimmered across the sky. The Watchers had formed a pattern in the shadow, almost like symbols floating in the silver darkness. Mara squinted, trying to make sense of it. The symbols moved in rhythm with the whispers, creating a code that seemed almost readable. "Look at that," she said to Laura. "They are showing us something. A pattern. A message. If we decode it, we might understand the reason for the eclipse, and maybe even the purpose of their presence." Tavan adjusted the instruments to capture the symbols. "They are teaching us. Only humans could respond to this kind of lesson. Only humans could stay calm, observe, and try to understand." Mara felt a surge of pride. Humans had always faced the unknown and found solutions. They adapted, overcame, and survived. Now, on Virilia, they were proving it once again. The Watchers shifted closer, hovering directly above the base. Mara held her breath, but she did not step back. She reached out toward the light pattern, as if trying to touch it with her mind. The whispers pulsed in response, steady and deliberate. "They are listening," Mara said softly. "And they are waiting for us to act. This is our moment. We must show them what humans are capable of." Suddenly, a sharp tremor shook the base. Equipment fell, and a loud alarm sounded. Mara grabbed Laura and Tavan, steadying them. The Watchers moved back slightly, as if acknowledging the humans' reaction. The whispers formed a more complex rhythm, almost like applause. Mara realized something profound. The Watchers were not enemies. They were observers, teachers, and perhaps guardians. They tested species, but only the courageous, the intelligent, and the adaptable could understand them. And humans were exactly that. As the eclipse began to wane, the Watchers slowly ascended, disappearing into the shadowed sky. The whispers faded, leaving a gentle hum in the air. Mara looked at her team. Their faces were tired, but determined. They had learned much, and yet the greatest challenges were still ahead. "Humans have survived the first test," Mara said. "We have observed, adapted, and understood. That is why we endure. That is why we are here. And the Watchers know it now." The Virelians began to emerge from their hiding places, hesitant but curious. They had not understood what the humans had done. Mara smiled. Humans had proven themselves not just to the Watchers, but to themselves. Courage, intelligence, and unity were enough to face even the most mysterious of challenges. And in the silver shadow of the eclipse, humans had made their mark on Virilia. The eclipse had passed its peak, leaving Virilia bathed in a soft silver light. Mara and her team moved carefully through the shadowed valleys, following the faint trails left by the Watchers. The whispers had faded, but the air still carried a strange energy, a residual hum that made the skin tingle. It felt alive, like the planet itself was holding its breath. "Look at this," Tavan said, pointing to a cliffside that glimmered faintly in the remaining light. Jagged lines of stone formed a pattern, almost like a door carved into the mountains. "This is not natural. Something was built here long ago." Mara approached slowly, her hand brushing against the cold stone. The surface was etched with strange symbols, faint but unmistakable. They pulsed slightly when she touched them, as if responding to her presence. "Perhaps the Watchers wanted us to find this," Mara whispered. "They left a path, a message. This could be important. We need to explore it carefully." Laura adjusted her backpack and pulled out a portable scanner. "The readings show energy beneath the rock. Something is hidden. A structure, maybe a sanctuary. It has been sealed for centuries, but the energy is still alive." The team worked together to clear debris and carefully open the hidden entrance. As the stone door shifted, a cold breeze escaped, carrying the scent of ancient metal and minerals. Mara felt a thrill of anticipation. Humans were explorers by nature. They faced the unknown not with fear, but with curiosity and determination. Inside, the sanctuary was vast and dimly lit by an eerie silver glow. The walls were covered in intricate carvings, showing scenes of the Watchers hovering above the planet, guiding civilizations and observing life. Mara traced the lines with her fingers, amazed by the level of detail. "These carvings tell a story," Mara said. "The Watchers have been here for centuries, perhaps millennia. They have observed the Virelians, and maybe other species before them. This place is a record, a history left for those who can understand it." Tavan examined a series of glowing panels embedded in the floor. "These are energy conduits. They are still active. If we can access them, we might be able to communicate directly with the Watchers or learn their purpose." Laura knelt near a pedestal in the center of the sanctuary. On it rested a crystalline object, pulsing with light in a rhythm similar to the whispers they had heard during the eclipse. "This must be a relic," she said. "It carries information, but not in any language we know. It might be encoded in energy, like the Watchers themselves." Mara reached for the relic carefully. The moment her fingers touched it, a wave of light spread across the sanctuary. The carvings shimmered, and the air vibrated with a gentle hum. Images appeared in Mara's mind, Watchers descending from the sky, guiding species, testing intelligence, and rewarding those who could understand. "They are showing us their history," Mara said softly. "This sanctuary is more than a place. It is a library of experience, a guide for those who prove themselves capable. Humans are capable." Tavan studied the energy patterns. "The conduits respond to thought and intention. If we focus, we can unlock more of the information stored here. It is designed for intelligent beings, not instinctive species." The team concentrated, matching their minds to the pulses of the relic and the conduits. Slowly, images of stars, planets, and civilizations flashed before them. They saw the Watchers monitoring life, testing species, and sometimes intervening when intelligence and courage were demonstrated. Mara realized something important. The Watchers do not act out of malice. They do not destroy. They observe, they test, and they reward understanding. This is why the Virelians feared them. They could not understand the tests, but humans can. That is why we are here. As they explored further, Laura discovered a chamber filled with objects shaped like tools, devices, and symbols. Each one pulsed with energy and carried patterns similar to the whispers and light sequences. "These are teaching instruments," Laura said. "They are meant to train the mind to perceive, decode, and respond. Humans can use these to learn faster." Mara nodded. "Everything the Watchers leave behind is a challenge and an opportunity. They test, but they also provide knowledge to those who are willing to learn. Humans are built for this. Our curiosity and intelligence make us perfect candidates." Suddenly, the floor vibrated lightly. The relic pulsed more strongly, and a doorway opened deeper into the sanctuary. Mara led the way, and the team entered a large chamber with a domed ceiling. The walls were covered with more carvings, this time showing species that had advanced after interacting with the Watchers. "These civilizations adapted and thrived," Mara said. "They learned from the Watchers' guidance and challenges. Humans can do the same. That is why we survived the eclipse and reached the sanctuary. We are ready to learn and grow. Tavan examined a pedestal with a set of symbols that glowed faintly. This is a key to access knowledge stored in energy form. We must focus our minds and match our thoughts to the pattern. It is designed for those who can think, not just react. Mara, Laura, and Tavan closed their eyes, focusing on the rhythm and pulses. The sanctuary responded, revealing images of advanced tools, star maps, and knowledge about planets, stars, and energy manipulation. Humans were absorbing information at a rate impossible for instinctive species. The Watchers chose us, Mara said. Not because we are strongest or fastest, but because we can think, adapt, and learn. Humans can survive challenges that others cannot. That is our greatest strength. The team worked for hours, learning from the sanctuary. Each piece of knowledge brought new understanding of the Watchers, the Viralians, and the universe. Mara realized that humans had always survived because they did not rely solely on instinct. They used reason, creativity, and cooperation. The Watchers' tests were another step in that journey. As they prepared to leave the sanctuary, Mara looked back at the relic. Its light pulsed gently, as if acknowledging their success. The energy conduits hummed softly, a reminder that knowledge was always alive, waiting for those willing to reach for it. We are ready, Mara said to her team. The Watchers will return. The next eclipse will be another test, but we are prepared. Humans are made for challenges like this. We will survive, and we will thrive. Outside, the silver light of the eclipse had begun to fade. The Viralians watched from a distance, confused but curious. Mara knew that humans had once again proven their strength. Not in fear or power, but in intelligence, courage, and unity. And in the hidden sanctuary beneath Viralia, humans had gained a new understanding of the universe, the Watchers, and themselves. The sky above Viralia darkened once more as the next phase of the eclipse approached. Mara stood at the edge of the high plateau, her eyes scanning the horizon. The Watchers had returned, their massive forms hovering silently above the planet. This time, however, Mara felt a difference. The Watchers were no longer distant observers. Their energy pulsed toward the humans as if calling them to respond. Tavan and Laura joined her, carrying the data from the hidden sanctuary. The knowledge they had gained gave them confidence, but also a sense of awe. They were about to face the Watchers directly, a moment humans had never experienced on this world before. They are waiting, Mara said. Not to attack, but to see if we are ready. We have learned from the sanctuary. We understand more. Now it is time to show them what humans can do. Laura adjusted the energy scanner. They are communicating through pulses of light and energy. We can respond in kind. If we match the rhythm, we can establish a connection. Mara nodded. She extended her arms and focused on the energy in the air. Slowly, the pulses from the Watchers shifted in response. The rhythm was steady and deliberate, as if testing her concentration. Mara felt her heart beat in sync with the energy, and for the first time, she sensed a direct link between human thought and the Watchers' signals. Tavan joined in, moving his hands over the scanner to mirror the pulses. Laura focused on the patterns of light, tracing them in the air. Together, the three humans formed a pattern of thought and action that the Watchers could recognize. One of the largest Watchers descended closer, its form glowing with silver and dark metallic shades. Mara felt no fear. Instead, she felt a strange understanding. The Watchers were intelligent beings, but their intelligence was different. They measured thought, courage, and adaptability rather than physical strength. They want to see our minds, Mara whispered. They want to see if we can think, adapt, and communicate. That is how humans survive, how we thrive. The Watcher pulsed again, sending waves of energy that flowed over the plateau. Mara, Tavan, and Laura responded instantly, matching the rhythm. The pulses became a conversation, a dialogue without words. Each wave carried information, and each response demonstrated understanding. Suddenly, the watcher shifted, hovering directly above them. A beam of soft silver light connected it to the humans, enveloping them in a cocoon of energy. Images and patterns flashed before their eyes, stars, planets, energy fields, and ancient civilizations that had interacted with the Watchers long before humans arrived on Viralaya. "They are showing us their history," Tavan said, amazed. "They are revealing knowledge that they usually do not share directly. We must pay attention. This is a gift." Mara reached out with her mind, focusing on the energy patterns. The Watchers responded with more complex pulses, challenging her to maintain concentration. She realized that humans could survive and learn because they adapted quickly, thought critically, and worked together. The Watchers recognized these traits instantly. The Viralians below watched in silence, trembling. They could not understand the interaction. Their fear prevented them from learning, from adapting. Mara felt a deep sense of pride. Humans were built for challenges like this. Courage, intelligence, and unity were enough to face even the most mysterious beings in the universe. The Watchers pulsed again, forming a pattern that resembled a question. Mara understood it as an invitation, to join the Watchers in understanding the universe, to prove that humans could think and adapt at a higher level. "We accept," Mara said aloud, though the connection was beyond words. Her thoughts carried the meaning directly to the Watchers. Tavan and Laura echoed the intention, and the pulses shifted in acknowledgement. Suddenly, the plateau shimmered as if reality itself bent around the Watchers' energy. The humans felt their senses expand, perceiving layers of the universe they had never imagined. They saw the connections between stars, planets, and energy flows. They understood that the Watchers were stewards, guiding civilizations that could prove intelligence and courage. The Viralians shrank back, unable to comprehend the experience. Mara knew that humans had once again proven their strength. Not through power or fear, but through thought, adaptation, and courage. One of the Watchers extended a tendril of energy, and Mara felt it touch her mind gently. It carried information, showing the humans how to interpret signals, read energy patterns, and perceive the subtle flows of life around them. Each pulse reinforced the lesson: intelligence and understanding were the greatest weapons and the strongest defense. Laura and Tavan mirrored Mara's focus, absorbing the knowledge. The Watchers tested them further, sending sequences of complex energy patterns. Humans responded instinctively, yet thoughtfully. They learned, adapted, and communicated in ways the Watchers could recognize. Mara smiled. Humans had survived countless challenges, from harsh environments to unpredictable predators. Now, on Viralaya, they proved that their greatest strength lay not in speed or size, but in intelligence, courage, and unity. The Watchers hovered silently for a moment, as if evaluating the humans' progress. Then, a soft pulse of energy expanded outward, connecting the Watchers with the sanctuary below. Mara understood the message: the knowledge they had gained was now part of a larger network. Humans were being included, recognized as a species capable of understanding, learning, and thriving. Tavan looked at Mara and Laura. "We are part of something bigger. The Watchers do not just observe, they guide, but only those who can prove themselves worthy can access this guidance." Mara nodded. "Humans are survivors. That is why we endure. That is why we are here. And now, the Watchers know it too." As the eclipse began to wane, the Watchers slowly ascended, their energy pulses fading but leaving a lasting impression. The humans felt enriched, enlightened, and connected in a way that transcended words. They had faced the unknown and proven their worth. The Viralians remained at a distance, unsure and fearful. Mara realized that humans had once again demonstrated the difference between instinct and intelligence. Fear might control some species, but humans could face the unknown, learn, and grow. That was why they survived and thrived where others could not. Mara turned to her team. We have made the first contact. We have proven our intelligence, our courage, and our ability to adapt. This is only the beginning. Humans are ready for whatever comes next. Laura smiled. The Watchers are teaching us, but they are also learning from us. They recognize our minds, our unity, and our determination. Tavan nodded. We are part of something larger than ourselves. The knowledge, the challenges, the tests, they all prepare us for the future. And humans are ready. As the last light of the eclipse faded, Mara looked up at the sky. The Watchers had left, but their presence remained. A reminder that the universe was vast, full of challenges, but also full of opportunity for those who were intelligent, courageous, and united. Humans had faced the first direct test. They had survived, adapted, and proven themselves worthy. And in doing so, they had shown that even in the shadow of the unknown, the spirit of humanity could shine brighter than any eclipse. After the eclipse, Mara and her team returned to the hidden sanctuary with a new sense of determination. The encounter with the Watchers had left them exhilarated and enlightened. The pulses of energy had revealed vast knowledge, but Mara sensed there was more to uncover. The Watchers did not merely observe, they had a purpose. And humans were part of it. The sanctuary still has secrets, Mara said as she walked through the glowing corridors. The Watchers want us to understand something deeper. They want us to see not just the past, but the future. We need to find it. Laura adjusted the scanner. The energy levels are higher here than anywhere else in the sanctuary. The Watchers may have left a final chamber, something that explains why they do all this. We have to find it. Tavan led the way through a narrow passage, and soon they reached a door unlike the others. It shimmered with soft light and seemed alive, reacting to their presence. Mara stepped forward, placing her hand on the surface. The door opened silently, revealing a circular chamber filled with light and energy patterns that danced across the walls. This must be it, Mara whispered. The Watcher's purpose, or at least part of it, is here. The chamber hummed as the team entered. In the center, a floating sphere of pure energy radiated with gentle pulses. When Mara approached, the sphere expanded and projected a series of images into the air. Stars formed constellations, planets rotated, and civilizations appeared, rising and falling across the galaxy. They are showing the universe, Tavan said. Every species, every planet, every event has a place in their plan. They are not random observers. They guide the flow of intelligent life. Mara watched, fascinated. The Watchers test civilizations, yes, but they also prepare them. They see which species can survive challenges and adapt to change. Those that succeed are given knowledge, tools, and guidance to thrive. Laura pointed at a group of planets being monitored. Look here. These civilizations are on the edge of collapse, but the Watchers intervene only when intelligence and courage are shown. They do not save the weak automatically. They reward those who try, who think, who persevere. Mara realized the deeper meaning. The Watchers' purpose is not control. It is preparation. They are shaping the universe so that intelligent species can survive, even in the face of great dangers. They guide, but they never do the work for you. You must earn it. The sphere pulsed and images shifted to a distant planet with dark, swirling storms and massive energy disruptions. Mara felt a shiver run through her. This planet is unstable. It is in danger. The Watchers must be showing us that challenges are not just tests, they are warnings. Intelligent species must act to survive. Tavan studied the patterns. The energy here suggests that the Watchers are preparing us. Humans are meant to respond, to understand the universe, and to face dangers that others cannot. This is why they revealed the sanctuary and why they made contact directly. We are part of their purpose now. Mara turned to Laura. We have survived the eclipse and learned from the sanctuary. Now we must use what we have gained. Knowledge alone is not enough. Humans must act, plan, and protect. That is our role. The sphere's energy shifted again, showing a path through the stars, connecting multiple planets and civilizations. The Watcher's guidance was clear: intelligence, courage, and unity were keys to survival. Species that ignored these lessons faded, while those that learned adapted and thrived. "We are being given tools to think ahead," Laura said. "The Watchers are showing potential threats, resources, and opportunities. This is a roadmap, not a guarantee. We must understand it and act wisely." Mara studied the map carefully. Every species that fails is a warning. Every success is a lesson. Humans are here to prove that intelligence and courage can overcome challenges. The Watchers have chosen us because we can rise to this moment. Tavan nodded. "This is bigger than Viralaya. The dangers we face, the lessons we learn, they prepare us for the universe itself. Humans are meant to explore, survive, and thrive on a scale that few other species can reach." Suddenly, the sphere pulsed strongly, projecting a single image of a massive celestial object hurtling through space. It glowed with intense energy and seemed to be on a collision course with several inhabited worlds. Mara's eyes widened. "This is the threat. The Watchers are showing us what could happen if intelligent species fail to prepare." Laura's voice was steady but serious. "It is not just a test anymore. We must act. Humans are capable of understanding, planning, and working together. We have to use what the Watchers have taught us to prevent disaster." Mara felt a surge of determination. "We will. Humans have survived impossible odds before. We have adapted, learned, and grown. This is another challenge, and we will meet it. The Watchers have prepared us, and now it is time to prove ourselves once more." The sphere began to fade, leaving the chamber in a gentle glow. Mara turned to her team. "We know the Watchers' purpose now. They guide, test, and prepare. They reveal knowledge to those who can use it. Our role is clear: we must learn, adapt, and act to protect not just ourselves, but the civilizations around us." Tavan placed a hand on the wall, where carvings of the Watchers shimmered faintly. "The knowledge is incredible, but the lessons are even more important. Intelligence without action is meaningless. Humans must use what we have learned." Mara nodded firmly. "We will. The Watchers chose humans because we can think, unite, and act. We are ready for the challenge. The universe is vast, and dangers are real. But humans are stronger than fear, stronger than uncertainty, and stronger than any test." Laura smiled. "We have survived the eclipse, learned from the sanctuary, made contact with the Watchers, and understood their purpose. Now we move forward, not as passive observers, but as active participants in the future of the galaxy." Mara looked out through the chamber entrance, where the silver light of Viralaya bathed the landscape. "The Watchers have prepared us, but the work is ours. Humans will rise, humans will adapt, and humans will thrive. That is our gift, and our responsibility." The team left the sanctuary with renewed focus. The Watchers' purpose was no longer a mystery. It was a call to action, a challenge that humans were ready to meet. Across the stars, the celestial threat waited, but Mara knew that humans were built for challenges like this. Intelligence, courage, and unity would guide them through the darkness. And for the first time, Mara felt the true weight of humanity's potential. The Watchers were not just observers, they were mentors, guiding humans toward a future filled with possibility, responsibility, and the promise of survival in an unforgiving universe. Humans had learned, adapted, and now, more than ever, they were ready to act. The celestial threat appeared on the horizon like a shadow moving through the stars. Mara stood at the edge of the plateau with Tavan and Laura, her eyes fixed on the glowing streak of energy approaching Viralaya. The Watchers had revealed this danger, and now humanity faced its first true cosmic test. "The sensors confirm it," Tavan said, his voice steady but tense. The object is massive. It will collide with multiple planets if we do not act. The Watchers prepared us for this moment. Everything we have learned will be needed. Laura adjusted the energy scanners. We can use the knowledge from the sanctuary and the Watchers' teachings. We can manipulate energy, redirect paths, and stabilize the gravitational flow. It will require precision, courage, and unity. Mara turned to both of them. We have faced the unknown before. We survived the eclipse, we learned from the Watchers, and we understood their purpose. Now is the time to act. Humans are built to adapt and rise to challenges. This is our moment. The team moved quickly, coordinating with human settlements across Viralaya. The energy from the sanctuary flowed through the devices they had constructed, linking them to the patterns the Watchers had taught them. Mara led the team in synchronizing the pulses, forming a network of energy that could influence the trajectory of the incoming object. The object loomed closer, its surface glowing with unstable energy. Humans across the planet held their breath as Mara, Tavan, and Laura directed the energy with precise focus. Each adjustment sent waves of power outward, nudging the object off course. It was not simple force, it was intelligence, calculation, and unity. This is it, Mara said, her mind in sync with the energy network. We cannot fail. Humans have adapted to survive countless dangers. This is no different. Focus on the rhythm, on the patterns, on each connection. The Watchers hovered silently above, their energy pulses mirroring the humans' actions. Mara felt their presence like a gentle guidance, a reminder that humans were capable, that intelligence and courage were the greatest tools. Tavan adjusted the pulse sequence. We are close. The energy alignment is holding. We just need to maintain it and keep the object from destabilizing further. Laura monitored the waves. The object is responding. It is shifting slowly. We can do this. Humans can do this. We have learned, adapted, and we are united. The object moved incrementally, the energy from the sanctuary bending its path. Mara felt the tension in the air, the weight of the moment pressing against every thought. Humans were not the strongest beings in the galaxy, but they had something stronger: intelligence, courage, and the ability to work together under pressure. The Watchers pulsed again, as if encouraging, their energy flowing through the humans, amplifying their focus. Mara felt the connection deeply, understanding that humans were no longer alone. The Watchers were allies, guides, and mentors, but the action was theirs. Hours seemed to pass, though time itself felt different under the intense energy. The object wavered, its path bending further away from the inhabited planets. The humans maintained the network, adjusting pulses with unbroken concentration. Finally, with a synchronized wave of energy, the object shifted completely, moving away from Viralaya and the other planets in its path. The sky cleared, the stars shining brightly once more. Humans cheered across the planet, their voices echoing in the valleys and plains. Mara, Tavan, and Laura looked at each other with relief and pride. We did it, Mara said softly. Humans did it. We faced the unknown and survived. We adapted, we thought, and we acted. That is what makes us strong. That is why we endure. Tavan smiled. The Watchers prepared us, but they also believed in us. This was not just a test of skill, it was a test of humanity. Intelligence, courage, unity. We passed. Laura looked at the sky, where the Watchers hovered briefly, their forms glowing with approval. They are acknowledging us. They recognize our strength. Humans are capable of greatness, and we have proven it today. Mara turned to the people of Viralaya who had gathered to witness the event. Look around you. Fear can hold some species back. Instinct may dominate others. But humans face the unknown. We think, we learn, we act. That is why we survive and why we will continue to thrive. The watchers pulsed one final time, sending waves of energy that seemed to settle across the planet. Mara felt the wisdom and knowledge of the universe flow gently through her. This was not just victory, it was preparation for the future. Humans had learned that intelligence, courage, and unity could overcome even cosmic threats. The celestial object continued its path safely away from the planets, now a distant light among the stars. The humans had not only survived, they had demonstrated their place in the universe. The Watcher's purpose had been fulfilled in part, and humanity had risen to meet it. Mara looked at Tavan and Laura. This is only the beginning. The universe is vast, and there will be more challenges. But humans are ready. We have learned from the past, from the Watchers, and from ourselves. Nothing can stop us if we stay united, intelligent, and brave. Tavan nodded. We have shown what humans can do. Others may doubt us, but we have proven our worth. The universe will recognize us as a species capable of survival, innovation, and courage. Laura smiled. The Watchers may guide us, but we are the ones who act. That is the strength of humanity. We think, we adapt, we thrive. That is our gift and our responsibility. As the sky returned to normal, the planet seemed brighter, alive with new energy. Humans across Viralia celebrated, not just the survival of their world, but the affirmation of their potential. They had faced a cosmic threat and prevailed through intelligence, courage, and unity. Mara looked at the stars, feeling the pulse of the universe through the sanctuary's energy. We are humans, she said. We endure. We adapt. We rise. And the universe will see that we are ready for anything. The Watchers finally ascended, leaving a faint trail of light across the sky. Their presence remained as a reminder, a promise, and a challenge. Humanity had passed the test, but the journey was just beginning. And in that moment, Mara knew one truth: humans were not merely survivors. They were pioneers, thinkers, and warriors of intelligence. They would face the universe with courage, adapt to any challenge, and thrive where others might falter. The cry of the sky had been answered. Humans had proven themselves worthy. Humanity had triumphed.